opportunity to hear from you and to answer any questions that we have and how can we support you in your run if you want to run. I ran for Missouri Treasurer last cycle, and just like the rest of our Democratic brothers and sisters, we didn't do too hot, but we're still in the fight, right? We're still in the fight, we're still working hard. And I grew up in Kansas City on the west side, and I grew up in Westport. Went to Raytown South for middle, Bishop Gage for high school, went to college in St. Louis in the house. And yeah, I'm now actually in the construction space, so made a little bit of a transition, but I'm still engaged politically and really looking forward to answering your questions and seeing how we can help guide this conversation and get some good Democrats elected. Thank you.
My name is Jessica Podhola, and I ran in the Democratic primary in Missouri's 11th senatorial district last year. I am the Governmental Affairs Director for the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades District Council 3, where I represent 1,400 allied craft workers in both Kansas and Missouri. And I'm also with the We Are Missouri campaign, which is going to lead the fight to repeal right to work in Missouri, so we're really excited about that. Shout out to Abby, because she has authored good positions for me, and I appreciate it, so thank you.
Where's the 11th?
The 11th is Independence. It's Eastern Jackson County.
My name is Manny Abarca. I ran for State Representative District 19 for the Historic Northeast and Western Independents Democratic primary. Lost by 19 whole votes, so things happen. I now work, I continue to work for Congressman Manny Abarca.
Hello, my name is Ashley Beard-Fosnow. I ran in 2016 for State Representative in the 55th House District, which is Cass County, south of Kansas City. I am married to Clint, he's an iron worker, and we have 3 kids, Vera, Henry, and Charlie.
All right, so we're actually going to move into the questions. First one I had for you, what was the #1 determining reason in your decision to run for office? And I'll actually start with you, Pat.
Okay, yeah. There were a lot of reasons why I wanted to run, and without getting into too much of all the policies that I believe in, but I really thought that I was the best person for the job. And I think that that's the most important thing that should drive anyone to run, you do the best job for the people. Because all the other things that you're passionate about in terms of the policy posturings or what you want to do in that office are all going to come later, but you need to truly believe that you're the best person for that job. So I ran for Missouri Treasurer because I thought I'd be a wonderful treasurer. A lot of things that I want to do, without getting into too much detail, I want to give people some time, but making housing more affordable. Right, I grew up on the west side, and how important that is. I want to make sure that we're making college more affordable. It's just too expensive for young people. Too many of our young people are going back and living with their parents, and it's just tough to make ends meet these days. And I want to make sure that we're, at the end of the day, leveling the playing field. We've seen it just become too wide, and for me, it's just making sure that we're strengthening the middle class. But that's why I ran. I ran on a big platform. I'll get into those if you guys want me to answer those questions, but at the end of the day, for me, it was about running and doing a good job and helping to serve all of Missouri.
I had been planning on running in 2018 for my state representative seat. My state representative is Ira Anders, and he's a great progressive in the Missouri House, and he's termed out in 2018. In a previous life, I had served as the executive director for the Jackson County Democrats for a long time. And in that position, you get to know people very intimately. You know who your activists are, you know every politician, you know where the bodies are buried and who put them there. You also get to steer young people who are interested in politics in the right direction. So my state senator stepped down, and I felt a lot of responsibility about that. I had placed interns on his campaign, I had placed interns in his office, and frankly, I happened to be at a leadership training for Gamaliel. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Moore Squared, Metropolitan Churches United, I think, MCU, over on the St. Louis side. And I had been agitated all week by activists around the country about why I wasn't running for office and why I wouldn't put my name on a ballot. And then Paul stepped down. And my phone started to ring. And I really thought about it. I prayed about it a lot. And at the end of the day, I think the content and the character of the people we send to the Capitol building matters. And I don't want to hold elective office for the rest of my life, and I thought that I could get some really specific work done around ethics. I know you guys were surprised to hear that ethics is a big deal in Jefferson City, but it is. And we fell short, and it was a tough race. It was the most expensive Senate primary in the state. And it was dirty, and it was nasty, and it was fun, and I would do it again in a heartbeat because the issues are still the same. But you know, the truth is I think I'm a better bench builder, and I'm really excited to build the bench for the Democratic Party and see who moves forward and who we can get to carry the mantle forward. So with that, I'll turn it over to Betsy.
Manny?
So in fairness, I was on Jessica's bench. She found me as a college student and put me to work, I think, Truman Days? I can't remember which day, somewhere. And so yeah, I mean, I was inspired by activists and leaders already. As Bob will probably tell you, when I was in Warrensburg, I was involved there too. But I was tired mostly. I mean, like Jessica, the senator stepped down, which caused the state rep to then run for Senate, which created an opportunity. And it was inevitable at some point for me to run for something. And it kind of just fell in my lap. And it was like, well, I guess this means go. And so, but I was tired. I was tired of the automatic gunshots in my backyard and our alley that were being shot at 1 in the morning every weekend. I was tired of the vacant houses. I was tired of people not having the health care they needed. I mean, not to go into the political stuff too much, but I was tired of all that. And I knew at the end of the day, although I would go down as a Democrat and be one of the minority, I was going to be one of the loudest minority members in that caucus that would exist. And I was from a safe enough district that I could be as progressive as I wanted to be, because I knew that I could go home to a district that was going to support me no matter what. Unlike some who go home and rest, I guess. I don't know what they're doing.
Ashley?
Let's see here. So I think I'm the only one on the panel who did not run in a primary. I ran in a general election, and what made me decide to run was I'd worked on a couple of issue-based campaigns. So one of them was early voting in 2014, and the legislature was threatening to preempt that with other legislation, and then we saw what they did with raising the minimum wage. It just seemed like it was a history of whatever we're trying to do on the local level, the extremists in the General Assembly are going to shut us down, right? So for me, I think one of the most interesting, needed candidates is state rep and Senate candidates. So I decided to, you applause my muttering a moment, thank you.
Because what you said is true.
Yeah. So I live in Cass County. I come from a family where my grandmother raised us that you bloom where you're planted. So while I was very jealous of folks who got to run in more progressive areas, I thought that if I threw my hat in this race and I was able to pull off a miracle, right, switching a seat from a very conservative, extremist Republican to a Democrat would be incredible, right? If we could do this in a whole number of races, this would change the political landscape of the state of Missouri. So the man that I ran against, his name is Rick Bratton. He is notorious for proposing legislation like execution by fire squad. He did the surf and turf bill in Missouri. You know, folks with food stamps cannot buy cookies or meat or tuna fish, yep. And then, oh, he also did you have to get a man's permission slip signed before a woman can get an abortion. So it made, while I feel like I could have asked for an easier seat to run in, I couldn't have asked for a better candidate. It was really enjoyable to take him on. And I'll make this quick because I tell this story all the time, but if you really want to know why I ran for state representative, it's because of my kids. Barbara, we were talking about that beforehand. I have a daughter, she's 10 now, she was 8. They learned their first civics lesson in 3rd grade. And she came home telling me all about the different levels and branches of government. She said they went out to play at recess, they decided to play elections. So one boy stands in the front of the class and says, "Vote for me for playground president and there will be no taxes." And so Vera looks at me and she's telling the story and she's like, "Mom, at that moment I knew I had to run for playground president." She said, "Because I know that our tax dollars pay for really important people in our community like teachers and firefighters and police officers." And her story is very motivating to me, right? Because she didn't say, "Okay, so who are we going to get to run against this class?" Like, she just stepped up. She ran.
Right.
And so for me, that's my inspiration, my kids, making the world a better place.
And Rick Bratton is termed out in 2018. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yes.
Jess, I'll start with you. For a new candidate starting out, what resources would you suggest they have in place to run a successful campaign?
So, like, the very first thing I would do if I was looking to dive deep again would get a big yellow legal notepad. And the first thing you need to do is write down 100 people that you can call and ask for money. And it might be $20 from your neighbor and $500 from your lawyer. You know, look, I wish that I could tell you that you could run a really successful campaign on ideas and ideals. But you have to be able to reach voters. And most of us work. We have jobs. We have responsibilities. And it absolutely is soul-sucking. But you have to be willing to call everyone you know and ask them for money. And actually ask them for more money than you think that they will give to you. So if you think your lawyer can give you $500, you better be asking for $1,000. That's the first thing I would do. Figure out how I'm gonna raise my first $10,000.
Mary?
I think the only thing in addition to that is making sure you know who's going to be on your team, what that core looks like. Because I just had this conversation earlier this week, actually, with somebody who was wanting to run for something. And he was like, and I just threw it out there one night, I had a couple drinks, and I was like, I'm going to run for city council. And then like I got 100 likes, and then like 20 comments. And I said, okay, on that same chain, ask them to come Saturday afternoon and do something hard and see who shows up. Because those people who were fire starting and stoking that fire there are not going to be the ones knocking on doors with you every day from February until August when it's 30 degrees outside and when it's 100 degrees outside. They're the ones who stand up and say, yeah, you should run for office, but then don't do anything to help you. So make sure you build that core team, make sure you have those allies there, and people are going to fall off, and that's nothing wrong to them. It's just, you know, life happens, but make sure that you have those people ready.
Can I say, also, if you are married,
Yeah.
like, or you have a life partner, this is not a solo decision. This is a family commitment. Do your kids still stress out about you knocking doors and being gone all the time?
Yes and no.
My 6-year-old still is like, are you knocking doors today? Because she equated that with me being gone for long periods of time. Right? So there are real sacrifices that our loved ones make that we don't even think about because we're so focused on raising the next $100 for reaching the next voter.
That's what I think is actually the most important resource is time. Time is the most valuable commodity in running for office. It's a huge, huge sacrifice, and you have to prepare yourself financially. I was on the campaign trail for just about 20 months full time, and I left my old job, and it was I left my old job in the run-up to actually declaring to run for office. And then once you're there, it's the time that you have to spend to build the list, to build the team, to get out there and reach voters. But it's a huge, huge time commitment, and I just implore you, if this is something you're willing to do and thinking about doing, is think about that important commodity of time. And if you're going to go in all the way.
Right.
Just go in all the way and really make that a sacrifice and know that you're going to get a lot out of it. The end result at the end of the day may not be if you win, but it's the process, the people you meet, the stuff you learn, and I think that's just so important. So think about the importance of time as the most valuable commodity.
For me, I walked every day, literally every day after work, 40 to 50 hours a week, and then 4 hours each day until the sun went down, and then I'd walk home in the dark because that last door was that important. So, I mean, you're talking, 28 hours at least a week on top of whatever you're doing. And that's, I knocked on 16,000 doors and I still lost.
And I think outside of Pat, Ashley ran the longest
Yeah.
campaign.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she ran against Rick Bratton, who is an exercise in vanity, right? And she knew she was running against him, and she was running in an extremely conservative district. This district is probably a 55% or greater Republican performing district, Cass County. So she was very aggressive on the doors. We were really aggressive on the doors too. I lost by 804 votes. The amount of votes I got correlating to the amount of identifications I have, there was a difference of 11 votes. I actually got 11 more votes than people like I or my team talked to, and that equals 10 more doors a day. If I had just hit 10 more doors a day, or if my team, if we had collectively hit 10 more doors a day, you know, you can extrapolate that data out. So it's time, yeah.
How big of like how many voters were in your districts? You know, what's the,
Well, Pat ran statewide,
okay.
but he was really running in a Democratic primary, so that narrows his universe a little bit.
Yeah, so my big focus was really St. Louis, Kansas City. If we didn't win at least 6% of St. Louis, we would lost guaranteed. So for me, actually running statewide as a Democrat, we had to win St. Louis. That had to happen, period.
Right.
That didn't happen, we didn't have a shot. But otherwise, everything was, relative.
Yeah. I ran in a state senate district, so the district I ran in encompassed portions of the 19th. It's a large district geographically, about 160,000 voters, but really, you're talking about a voting universe of about 12,000.
Do you know who they are ahead of time, or do you have to try and sort that out?
So there are tools that you can use as a candidate. Did you start with voter lists from the election board?
I did not.
I
used the van.
Okay. The Missouri Democratic Party has a tool called the Voter Action Network, also known as the VAN, or Vote Builder. This is a tool that almost every Democratic Party or committee across the country uses, and it is a database of voters. Labor organizations use a similar tool, we call it the Labor Action Network. The big difference is the vendor of data, right? The VAN gets their data from a company called Clarity. LAN gets their data from a company called Catalyst. And we do not register as party voters in this state. So it is all about talking to voters. Lots of campaigns, I can't even think of how many times I've said, my name's Jessica Podhola, I'm here to talk to you about Jay Nixon. Are you planning on supporting Jay Nixon? Great. Would you consider yourself a Democrat? Are you a strong Democrat? Oh, you're an independent? Okay. Well, would you say you're a leaning Democrat? Because we have a score. And that score is now, it's a 0 to 100 score. And so often you are looking at trying to reach voters who are most likely to vote in your election. And that varies. A general election universe for Ashley is a much larger pool of voters than a primary for the 11th senatorial, or even for Manny, the 19th House district is a historically underperforming, historically.
757 people chose a state rep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jeez.
In the primary?
Yep.
in the primary. And that was it, there's no general.
Yep.
Say that again? So,
757 people.